What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second album by the Filthy Spectacula. Basically, this product is called the Howl of the Underclasses, and that came out in the summer of 2019. So the name of this product here is this is the follow-up to the Thrupney Upright, which came out in the spring of 2016 as far as what's going to happen. Basically, this still has Mr. E on like the lead vocals, pitches like that, so some good type fare. Just because he vacated the previous band Ghostfire, which has some pretty good pitches on there with songs like The Last Steampunk Waltz and with hit songs like The Last Steampunk Waltz and Hand of Glory, some of those type pitches. I reviewed a good portion of Ghostfire and a little bit of the Filthy Spectacula throughout 2024, but it's been a little bit. This is another request that I gotten somewhere. I think it was actually pretty. This was a recent one within the pitch. This one was more within the past few months, April, May, June of 2025, something like that within those pitches to get to this one. But I didn't have as terribly many. There weren't as many frequent type rock type ones, so it's just one pitch as far as getting to this with like this particular product like I've talked about in the community post. It's a good nice one here to get to just one pitch. It's a good follow up to get further with the Filthy Spectacula, because as of the current rate, I didn't have this particular album scheduled anytime soon. That pretty much goes out to October, November pitches like that. So it's good to get to this one now just to speed up the process as far as getting towards that particular fair, as far as that aspect we kind of have in this, because pretty much every Ghostfire product I've enjoyed pretty thoroughly, starting with like The Last Steampunk Waltz, which I reviewed back in 2023. Some excellent type pitches. This continues that fare, but by this particular stage, considering the fact that Ghostfire more or less was only known for maybe 2 or 3 hit songs, particularly most of those were off of the 2-song EP, The Last Steampunk Waltz from I think it was early 2010, which is some particular good type fare, but it's just the pitch as far as saying that it's just getting further and further down the rabbit. Albums like this one, the Howl, the Underclasses, just get further and further down the rabbit hole as far as those pitches can happen. Just with an aspect, I think there might have been some carryover from folks from Ghostfire, from the last product that had Mr. E on there on the vocals was 2011's. I forget what that album's called. Ghostfire's most recent album with Mystery on the vocals, which was 2011's The Tyburn Jig, which was some pretty excellent pitches within those fairs, just within the product of it. But yeah, particularly there was like Skeleton Coast from 2013 had some good type appeals, but I had a different vocalist on there. I'm eventually going to get to that particular starlet. There's the chick on that. I originally thought that chick that was on the Skeleton Coast EP by Ghostfire was actually Ghostfire's new vocalist, but that's not the case. She was just a guest vocalist. It had the Ghostfire band on Skeleton Coast, but they swapped out like the vocalist because Mr. E was not on it. So that particular band had like a particular band with that female vocalist I'm going to get to within some of those pitches, because I want to say some of that was steampunk as well. So it's within those pairs that's eventually going to happen. I would say pretty much within the aspect, don't hold your breath, because the format, I had the information looked up as to whom that particular band was, but that computer with that information broke, so I'm gonna have to search for it again as far as this first gonna happen. But it shouldn't be too difficult. But it's just one pitch. But yeah, this Howl, the Underclasses, recommend 12 out of 13 songs on here. So this album's pretty much gonna get a 10 out of 10 within the aspect behind it. It says, looking upon the wiki page about this particular album, it says that there was a single off this product. I almost thought that there wasn't a single. So the single off this album was Dirty Dog as far as this first gonna happen. So I'll go ahead and talk about that one first, but it's just within the pitch as far as saying, for the most part, I do feel like Dirty Dog is a good aspect to be able to get this particular tone that has some relative commercial bite, but it kind of feels like within the pitch, the commercialness is kind of here and there. There's at least 2 songs I would probably say within the aspect behind it that has some degree of commercial bite, at least to the point of having some degree of relative kind of forefront. If there was like an XM radio kind of steampunk radio station, supposing that steampunk were a big enough subgenre or it could pick up some noise pitches like that, I'd probably say the 2 songs I would say within the pitch that have like the 2 or 3 songs within the pitch that have like some relative commercial light about it would be the Dirty Dog song, and then I would also say Tyrants of the Seven Seas would be some good nice ones. And probably within a certain pitch, there's another one on here I'm trying to think within the rounds of it. Maybe it is only those 2, but maybe I would throw in the Seas of Stupidity as far as those fairs going to happen. Maybe I would throw in Seas of Stupidity as well within some of those type pitches. But it's just within the format as far as saying, for the most part, I mean, it's just the product of getting some good music within the aspect. But this particular album comparatively is just not as haunting as normal for like what you would think out of the Filthy Spectacula. Like the previous one, from what I remember about the Thrupney Upright, just had a lot more hollowness, a lot more ghostly and a gas type feel. This particular one's a little bit more centralized with easing out and kind of having like some vibes as far as like the particular fare of just like social goings and pitches like that. It's not so much a work shift type album, it's just within pitch as far as it's kind of like It's a little bit more spread out, a little bit more in a mode to kind of kick back and have some chattiness just within the format. Just a little bit more. The previous one was just like some drunken kind of jaunts at like pubs and pitches like that, just within the tone as far as saying they kind of had the aspect as far as just being in a stupor, kind of the aspects of kind of feeling down in the dumps, and just the format of this, drinking your problems away and just having the format of this kind of within the after effect of this kind of a haunting type sense of just really being down. This particular one, a little bit more sarcastic, a little bit more perked up, just kind of within the aspect of just having like those particular fairs, just has a little bit more, this particular one just has a little bit more liveliness about it. I mean, it's not so much like it still very much has the malaise of the previous one, but it's just within the pitch as far as saying it's just not as forlorn this time within the aspect. It kind of has a little bit more tug along, a little bit more upkeep within the sense of just having like the product of just getting towards like the fashion, like some standard fare. So it just feels a little bit more preoccupied this time within the pitch, where the last one just felt a little bit more hollow, just more forlorn within the pitch. This one just has a little bit more oomph about it within the comparedness. I mean, there are some pub crawl songs on here, but drinking is not as full bound kind of the main theme this time. It feels like there's just been some relief from like the concepts, like most of the songs from what I remember. I did purchase like Threatening Upright from 2016, was just in the pitch. There's some songs on there I listened to on the occasion, but still fleshing out as the fucking with some. I mean, I gave that album a 10 or a 9.5. So I think somewhere between a 9.5 and a 10 as far as those first gonna have. It's just within the pitch. When you're not drunk centric and in the mode to kind of get crunk a little bit, it just doesn't have as much affability, because I'm just not really visiting at all like pubs and places like that for like some social step out within that particular type fair, being in that mode. So it's just kind of the pitch as far as saying, but I look after it, some songs like Drink Ski Song and like Up Against the songs like Drink Ski Song and Against the Wall are some good nice ones. But it's just in the pitch of just fleshing out more of that to kind of have more gems and just bops within it. But I did purchase that album. This is a good nice one to purchase as well. Like I said, this has some good moments about it. It's kind of the pitch is just visiting places, just being a little bit more sociable this time, kind of getting used to like the particular fair, just not quite as like morose, I'd say. So it's just the tone. I mean, it has a relative looming type feeling, but it's just not as like hollow, I'd say. It's just the concept that it kind of not so much abandoned, but kind of shed a little bit, like the concept of Ghostfire is kind of lofty and just overall aghast for the most part, kind of just shrillness of kind of having like those sink in with their talents type pitches, as far as just having something that just gives you like chills and goosebumps as far as the first album. It's just not as haunting this time. I'd say within the tone, it has like some relativeness, but it's just not as on here as full bound. It's just kind of a little bit more worldly within the tone of just being more gas within it. So within the tone, it still has like that particular shanty type aspect and this kind of more like steampunk type vibes within the pitch, but it's just kind of the product as far as saying it just is more centered within the style of this, like, alright, this is the lifestyle that you're fucking with around this lifestyle that you're fucking with around these particular times. It's just a matter of the product of this kind of fleshing it out and having like some products of this like to getting used to more so than like this particular album just has a little bit more adornment factors as far as getting used to steampunk and some of those type fairs within the pitch. So it's just the product. But yeah, so the Dirty Dog was the lead single. So this is like a typical dope kind of pub crawl heat to kind of get here. Just have a few rounds. I would definitely say this Ghostfire basically in 2019. I'd say within those pitches, this good song to crunk up to as far as this pitch can go. So this typical type fair, when you think of some of those hit singles like Off the Tyburn Jag and Last Steampunk Waltz, is very much similar to those particular type formats. It's a typical kind of pub crawl type pub crawl, just with an aspect behind it. I mean, by this stage within these particular albums that you've seen, it's just stock and factory type format of getting like some good kind of shanty and just it's the product of getting like some shanty and dark cabaret type music within the aspect of like steampunk type fare. So it's just good type ish, just usual type product, just good type fare. If you like Ghostfire, if you like previous things by the Filthy Spectacula, some good type pitches, have this follow-up song, just a banner type single, just from the format, just more of what you love from that fair as far as those pitches can happen. Now I'm going to talk about another song on here as if it were the single, and then I'll talk about the most popular song according to Spotify. So that's the pitch. So basically, Tyrants of the Seven Seas is a nice one that probably could have been a single. It's like some sunset peering and a relative commercial pep about this one. Just has a real affle type one. It just has a little bit more radio flair about it. This feels like it could have been a buzz single. It's real commercial bounce about it. Now I realize within the product, the likelihood of hearing like steampunk on like relative radio type fair just seems very unlikely. I think even some of Ghostfire and the Filthy Spectacula's most popular songs probably would be questionable as to which one would probably get on the radio. I think just going from like a song like when you think of rock radio, something like Enter Sandman, or something like going from something like Enter Sandman or Radioactive, some of those type pitches within the format, and then going to like a real ripped out of like 1870 type pitch of like the Drinksky song or like the Dirty Dog, one of those type pitches, or Tyrants of the Seven Seas. Not like I'd have a problem. It's excellent type fare. I mean, just like I've said many times within these Ghostfire and Filthy Spectacular reviews, it's kind of an acquired taste, but it works once you get towards it. Just the pitch, basically just like getting what rock music would sound like in the 1800s, supposing that were a thing. Just the pitch as far as that particular form. It's just the aspects for getting toward it. Just old. Definitely works as very old world kind of beer mug and saloon type music, so that's the pitch. But Tyrants of the Seven Seas, the real kind of Sunset Pier in type 1, just real miss the aspect to outdoor type fare, just in the relative just swash and kind of swashbuckling type senses from that aspect. Seaside fun, some of those type pitches. So the most popular song according to Spotify is the Hearse song, which is a good type of appeal. Now this isn't a gas type one, this is more in the format of like the previous album and more in the Ghostfire type vibes, but it's like an old world kind of a gas and shanty kind of sluggish day clouds, I'd have to say here. This vintage kind of ghost type pitch with the vintage kind of Ghostfire type pitch within it, and it's just kind of some seasick as far as this first comes. So just to miss the product, there is some of that usual routine of just like that upside down type feeling within the product of on the Hearse song. There is some of that usual upside down type product that Ghostfire and the Filthy Spectacular typically kind of have within those pitches. Just kind of the format as far as saying it is. It's just that usual fare as far as getting towards the product of just like how that conduct kind of goes just within like the just more beleaguered type sense of just the usual malaise. But like I said, it's just on here. It's full bound kind of aspect. I mean, I think if you're just used to that mentality, if you're used to that particular theme of Ghostfire, just usually being in a slump, some of those type fares, but it just kind of developed like kind of an immunity to it. I guess that would be the pitch to kind of say it just kind of has more of an immunity of just kind of being used. It's just like it's kind of like when Violent J said on the song that it's kind of like when Violent J said in a particular song that he was thrown in a shit pile and he got used to it and lived there for a while as far as those pitches can happen. So it's just kind of amidst that product of just being used to like the shit pile as far as those pitches can happen, just getting used to like the lifestyle like down in the dumps. But I feel like within the product, Ghostfire did that pretty well within the aspect, but it's just not quite as beaming within like the concept of just being less morose. It's just kind of more, yeah, just like within the immunity of some of these type of ones. But the Her song's just a particular one that has that slump of just like previous products by Mystery and some of those type folks. So it's a good type pitch for that. But yeah, some other nice ones on here within pitch. Our Dirty Little Secrets, like a slinky kind of romantic evening shine to kind of get here. Just an old fashioned kind of mingle, I'd say about this one. Just some dinner noise to kind of have. This is one of the products that, like I was saying, this one's not as slump within the pitch behind. It's just kind of the product of just getting towards like some Paris and kind of Rome, places like that. This romantic dinner would be more out in Europe and some of those type places, just a little bit more within the product of like, romantic boat rides and just some of those type products of just like romantic boat rides and dinner dates. Is the product of just having like extravagant kind of romance as far as those pitch can have. So just good type fare. There's a couple songs on here that have some sarcastic type senses about them. So I'd say basically She Wants Me Dead and One Step Closer within some of those type of pitches behind it. One Step Closer is like a feeling perk to have a few rounds of drink type tune within the pitch. It's kind of within the fare. Kind of just like the Dirty Dog and some of those type of ones. Kind of just like the hit single The Dirty Dog and previous Ghostfire and Filthy Spectacular, just within the pitch, but just a little bit more uppity and just a little bit more kind of frenetic. I mean, System of a Down's pretty good at these type ones where the energy is just real spastic and sarcastic within the pitch. Just kind of like real aggregate within the format, but this is like a good nice one for that. This is just kind of a bored kind of day routine kind of getting grading as far as this first kind of happens. It's just the frustration of it, just kind of some sarcastic kind of relief as far as heading to a pub, some of those type pitches, which is kind of the same format about She Wants Me Dead. This is like a feeling sarcastic kind of out on the night prowl type pitch, but then it just kind of a venting, just kind of some stupid extra moments as far as this first going to happen. Not to say stupid in terms of quality, but just kind of stupid moments where you're wondering, some stupid extra moments where you're just like, what the hell, this is kind of wasting my time. Some of those type pitches within the format, just kind of aspect of just being out and about, but just being social about it. So thinking about this particular fare, Mystery on this particular album more so just goes out in public within the pitch. It's just kind of the product of just being out and about as opposed to like ruminating. There's not a ton of rumination off this album. There were a few songs from like Thrupney Upright that had a little bit of rumination, a little bit more moroseness as far as brooding. This album really doesn't brood that much. It's kind of social. It's kind of more sociable amidst like the product of outing type fare. So most of the songs on here, I can't think, maybe there's a couple, there might be a couple commerce type songs within the pitch, like Women and Children First, and then like Seas of Stupidity, some of those type ones. But for the most part, if it's not amidst like the traffic of getting to like a pub, some of those type pitches, for the most part, it's more amidst like either pubs or just places where there's going to be some degree of like crowds and affability within the pitch. So this is kind of the format. But Casanova with the Social Disease is a nice one, as well as like a mild kind of alternative rock dredge, kind of getting like a shanty type fashion, just kind of some unwindings kind of get here. So this one, probably the most recent to like the current times that I'd say. This is one that doesn't feel as full bound kind of 1800s within pitch, but just kind of something that would feel like just something Foo Fighters or like an alternative rock or post grunge kind of band would kind of do, just in like a bar hop, just with like a mild kind of neon type sense about it. Just something for like Budweiser and cigarette type fare within some type pitch. Not to recommend cigarettes, but just the pitch as far as it's your typical type place where there would be smoke type fashion, and just like Budweiser beer, some of those type pitches within it. Just, I mean, it keeps it in a shanty type fashion, but this is at least one that doesn't feel as like throwback to like 100 years ago and further within those pitches. But Cynthia is a real quality one, as well as like a nice melodrama in like an 1800s fashion kind of sense that I'd say is like a seasick kind of tipsy and pasted type product kind of get here, just sociable within the pitch. So just the aspect of just being out and about, but just within the fair, just more bellows type fashion, just within pitch, and just like the conduct of this, that sort of malaise, but this kind of public malaise as far as those pitches can happen. So it's just maybe be leaguered within the aspect, but this has like some quick type paces as far as just the product of this being out and about and just kind of the dramatic type fashion. So this does have some personable type drama on here. I like the pitch behind it. This very much has the product, but so this is just a quicker album than Thrupney Upright. It's just not quite as, this particular album is not quite as comfortable as like Thrupney Upright kind of particularly was. This has a little bit more unfetteredness about it. It's more kind of nerve-wracking within the pitch. There's just some songs on here like Women and Children First, Oh Cynthia, She Wants Me Dead, One Step Closer, some of these type pitches, just within the format. Just a little bit more rattled this time within the pitch behind it. Some of those type ones, the Hearst song, some of these type ones. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned Seas of Stupidity with that previous list I mentioned, but that's another one within those kind of uppity type ones. And then Rum is another nice one within those pitches that kind of does that. But Seas of Stupidity, talk about that one. It's like a malaise and swash, but peppy kind of routine John's going to get here. Just good 1800s kind of everyday gem within some of those type pitches. So just the product of this, kind of more commerce within pitch. Like I was saying, just similar to Women and Children First, some of those type ones, just within the product, like some in-between type fashions, just figuring out as far as what's going to particularly have. Just typical kind of conducts of just that immunity type fashion, just getting used to like the typical format of just like the dredge and just for kind of like 1800s kind of post grunge as far as those pitches can happen. So this old world kind of malaise as far as those pitches can go, good type fare. I'm not sure if I want to say I haven't talked about Women and Children First, but this is a nice one as well. It's like a chugging kind of makeshift slag to kind of get here. Just typical dredge, I'd say, just post work activity kind of have within some of those pitches. Just good bop to kind of get along to. Just good bop and pitches like that. So just some extra type fare, just kind of the format. Some of these type ones do feel mildly like trying to break away from like the concept of just strictly visiting pubs and pitches like that. It's just kind of fair. The thing about like Ghostfire and Filthy Spectacula is when you take this particular style, of dark cabaret and steampunk within the pitch, there's just not a ton of things within the fashion, more 1800s type senses within that theme of like how the soundscape kind of fits with it to kind of have for many activities to do apart from drink, because it just doesn't make sense to say that these songs would be kind of like Xbox music or something like that within the tones of just like, you know, playing basketball or some of those type pitches within the format. It just doesn't make as full bound kind of sense. It just, when you think of the product of it, I mean, even having like, you know, bass in your vehicle, something like that, just standard system knocks, some of those type pitches, it just feels like for the format of it, there's just not a ton of really kind of avenues to, I mean, I feel like, you know, when you think of steampunk, it has some good type pitches, but when it isn't like the old town kind of hops and pub crawl, some of those type pitches, it just feels strange with an aspect, but still, it attempts it. It's just kind of the activity of just figuring out some extra moments. I feel like songs like Women and Children First and She Wants Me Dead and like Seas of Stupidity, some of those type ones. There's probably at least another one on here that kind of has some of that type fare. To a certain extent, kind of Tyrants of the Seven Seas. I mean, some of this kind of works for Sunset Pier, but just with an aspect of just trying to figure out like extra type moments as far as where to adapt to some of those. But Rum is a nice one as well. It's like a typical kind of evening embrace in like a calmer sense, I'd have to say here. Just kind of the song would be heading to some pub type fare within the pitch behind it, just kind of a ruffled day. Yeah, this particular song would be some evening embrace in like a calmer sense, pitches like that, just heading to like a pub type fare, some of that particular. Rum would be like a typical kind of evening embrace in like a commerce type sense, I'd have to say, just heading to like pub type fare pitches like that, just kind of a ruffled day. Some of the song is good for like a ruffled day, some of those type fares, and it's a good song to vent out as far as those pitches can have. So just amidst the product of most like this, letting off steam, some of those type pitches from the format, just kind of usual day slag, just the format of this, getting ready to grab around to drink, some of those particular type aspects is kind of like a more, within a relative similar type fashion, within probably maybe not the same night as the Dirty Dog, but within a pitch of just like within the same week within the fashion, just like that typical product of just having more tight fares for like more nights out just when the pitch behind it. So this stock and routine kind of Filthy Spectacular and Ghostfire within those pitches, but just kind of the format of just more preoccupied within the pitch as far as what's supposed to happen. So just the same aspect within it, but it's kind of either amidst like the commerce of just heading to like a pub or just the initial moments of songs kind of either amidst like the commerce moments within it or just kind of within the pub type fashion, just having like the moments of just kind of it's kind of the moments of just drinking problems away as far as those pitch counts. So just within the pitch, but Bedlam Hallelujah is a pretty nice one. Also like the song title of this one, just some real good appeals about it. It's like a late shift kind of preparation for some Friday nights that I'd say just within the moments of listening to steampunk, just within the product of getting primed and heading out some of those type pitches. Just kind of a it's like a steampunk kind of 1800s kind of enjoying this particular song is like a steampunk kind of 1800s enjoying this pitch just like that, kind of enjoying a primer as far as what's supposed to happen. So just to miss the product, when you think of like mixtape songs, the surprising thing is to mention like rap mixtape. The surprising thing is to mention like rap mixtape type songs within the pitch as far as saying those ones where it would be like 7 o'clock p.m. and you're getting ready to head out some of those type pitches as far as like getting to a nightclub within the next 15-20 minutes, going to get tore up some of those type moments, holla at some beezies, some of those type formats. Just within the pitch as far as saying this is an 18 it's like an 1800s type fashion, like getting ready to have like some crunk type modes. So this one's actually a little bit more composed. This is a more comfortable type one within the pitch compared to most of this album. This within the format of like that relative step out type fashion as far as getting ready to have. This would have been another good nice moment to have another one of these on here, but it's just within the pitch as far as saying that these are some good ones. Trying to think if there's other songs I haven't talked about on here. It's just in the pitch as far as saying I think I basically covered every last one. Yeah, this is in the product side. I would have to say this album gets a 10 out of 10. The social score I'll probably give maybe like a 9.75. I look within the pitch as far as saying I would give it a higher score, but it's just the pitch that the relative likelihood of this band being discovered is full band. You have to already know about it within the pitch, especially concerning the product that this is like 9 years removed from some of steampunk and mystery. It's like 9 years removed from some of steampunk and mystery's biggest hits within some of those pitches. So 2010 with Steampunk Waltz and Hand of Glory was the real prime era for that particular pair. That he was part of Ghostfire for a little bit longer. Dropped me upright in 2016 with Filthy Spectacular, but just within the pitch as it gets further down the rabbit hole, it's just within the pitch as far as saying to fuck with it further as far as this pitch can go. It does have a single, does have a few commercial type bops on here within a relative learning curve type sense of just being adapted to steampunk and dark cabaret, some of those type pitches within the format just has those appeals. Ruffled type moments. This is more of like an unfettered type album. This particular album is more frustration more so than it is just haunting. So the previous one was just more haunting, just kind of the looming type feeling of what particularly went on, just kind of the malaise about it, and just kind of more just morose kind of drinking away. But this particular one's more the frustration of drinking away within those pairs. So it has the same. When I was saying it doesn't have as many drinking moments, it does have them on here within more than a few time moments, but it's just kind of more aggy and just amidst like the product of just kind of needing, it's just more amidst the product of needing to vent in some of those time moments. Just kind of just feeling sarcastic and frustrated as far as this press comes. So just in the pitch as far as saying, but that's the product of it, just looking within the tones. So 9.75 social. In terms of the future, like there is another Filthy Spectacular album after this particular one as far as this press happened. Came out in 2020, but I don't know if they've dropped anything after that. I'm not sure if Mr. E is still a part of this band as far as these fairs nowadays kind of happen. I do want to say they've dropped singles somewhere in the 2020s as far as this press happens. There might be something else within the product just within the pitch as far as saying, but I think once I get this next Filthy Spectacular album kind of going at some stage, I would say once I get this next Filthy Spectacular album going within some of those type formats, I would say I'll see what else is popping with steampunk, like Abney Park and some of those type folks, and this other band with like that starlet that was on Skeleton Coast as far as those first happens. It's just within the pitch. There might be more stuff by Mr. E. He might have went solo again. Some of those type of appeals, not really as full bound, sure, but we'll figure it out. It's kind of within the formats of it. So this is a classic here within those pitches. It's more of what you love from steampunk. Some of those type fairs just nails it on the cylinders of what's delivered upon, but it's just kind of the concept that it still continues to have a learning curve. Once you adapt to it, it's pretty damn good within the pitch. It's kind of the product. It's just a little bit more wired of an album this time, but still within the pitch, it still has some good type moments for like the product, like some bar runs and pub crawls.